The Galactic Council chamber was a place of power, a hall so vast that the voices of hundreds of alien leaders echoed like thunder across its shining walls, and on that day the chamber was filled not with fear but with laughter, the kind of laughter that stung with arrogance and disbelief, for the humans had arrived at last with their fleet, and what the galaxy saw made even the most disciplined admiral smirk. The ships of Earth were old, their hulls patched with mismatched plates of steel, their engines leaving faint trails of smoke and fire where energy leaks burned unchecked. Their weapons were crude barrels and turrets, designs pulled from history books, and many alien leaders leaned close to whisper to one another, mocking the very idea that such a fleet could stand against the empires of the galaxy. One reptilian commander snorted and hissed, "Are these humans serious, or are they here to remind us what ships looked like 1,000 years ago?" Another alien with silver eyes and glittering robes waved dismissively, "These ships belong in museums, not in war." And across the chamber the sound of ridicule swelled until it seemed the entire galaxy was united in their scorn. Yet in the middle of the laughter, among the flashing teeth and gloating voices, the human delegation stood silent, their faces calm, their postures still, and their eyes sharper than blades, for while the galaxy mocked, the humans exchanged quiet signals that few noticed, small taps of fingers, subtle nods, glances that carried the weight of unspoken words, and in those moments it became clear that Earth's commanders had not come to impress with bright metal or polished designs. They had come with something else, something hidden, and though none of the aliens saw it, the humans already carried the look of people who knew exactly what they were doing. The council elder, a creature with 6 eyes and a voice like rolling stones, struck the ground with his staff to silence the noise, his deep tone filling the air as he spoke of the border conflict that had shaken half the known sectors. Empires stood ready to send fleets, thousands of ships gleaming with the newest weapons and strongest shields, and in the shadow of that, humanity's entry seemed almost laughable. Reports circulated among the council that humans had no chance, their technology was outdated, their numbers small, their history brief compared to ancient empires that had ruled the stars for millennia, and yet no one could explain why humans had stepped forward, why they had chosen to arrive with ships so ancient, unless it was some kind of desperate gamble. The whispers of arrogance spread, "They will be crushed in the first hour. Their fleet will scatter like dust. Earth is nothing more than a child playing at war." And still the humans did not argue, they did not answer, they simply watched and listened, and their silence grew heavier with every insult. Among the crowd of alien delegates, one insectoid strategist narrowed its glowing eyes and leaned toward its companion, speaking in a low clicking voice. "Something is not right, they are too calm, too quiet." But the companion waved it off with a metallic laugh. Humans hide their shame, nothing more. And yet the insectoid kept watching, disturbed by the way the human captains shared looks that spoke of confidence instead of fear, of patience instead of pride, and as the alien empires roared with laughter, the insectoid felt the faint chill of doubt crawl across its carapace, because in its long years of war, it had learned one thing: armies that knew they were beaten rarely looked so calm. The chamber grew restless as the elder called for silence again, preparing to set the stage for negotiations and strategies. But even as he spoke, reports continued to flicker across datapads. The human ships were recorded as outdated vessels from centuries past, long before plasma shields and quantum torpedoes had redefined combat. Their engines lacked efficiency, their armor was thick but clumsy, their weapons lacked range compared to modern fleets, and still the humans did not flinch when their weakness was read aloud, as though every word spoken was expected, even welcomed, and though many dismissed it as foolish pride, a few began to wonder if humanity's true strength lay not in their ships but in something else, something deeper that no one could yet see. A cloaked envoy from the Drathan Empire whispered in a voice like broken glass, "What are they hiding?" But his question was swallowed by another round of laughter as a holo-display showed the human fleet compared to the glittering armadas of the galaxy, the difference so great it seemed almost cruel. Yet the human admirals only nodded to one another when the image appeared, and in that silent exchange was a promise, though no alien could read it. A promise that everything about this display was deliberate, that every insult, every dismissal, every sneer was being carefully stored away by the humans for a moment that had not yet come. In the back rows of the council, younger alien officers whispered nervously, wondering why humans had agreed to join at all, why they had dared to bring relics into the heart of interstellar war, and though their elders dismissed the question with scorn, the younger ones could not shake the unease, for there was something in the humans' eyes that did not match the weakness of their ships, something old and unyielding, a fire that no one else could quite define, and it was then, in the silence, between the waves of laughter, that the first secret whispers began to spread like sparks in dry grass. whispers that said the humans had not come to impress with shining armor or sleek weapons, whispers that said the humans had not come as fools, but as hunters, carrying a plan so dangerous that they did not need the galaxy to believe in them, they only needed the galaxy to keep laughing, until it was too late. The laughter of the Galactic Council still echoed when the first reports arrived from the border, faint signals picked up by long-range sensors that told of sudden movement, enemy fleets pushing into disputed space with terrifying speed, and while alien commanders immediately began drafting plans, boasting of their powerful ships and advanced strategies, the humans remained silent, watching the chaos unfold with unreadable expressions. And again the chamber filled with whispers, "They cannot be serious, their ships will not even reach the battlefield before they are destroyed. They are nothing but decoration, a reminder of the past." And yet when the call went out for fleets to mobilize, the human delegation calmly signed their agreement without hesitation, and the room fell quiet for a moment, stunned that Earth would send its fragile ships into the fire, but the human admiral, a gray-haired man with eyes as sharp as steel, spoke only one sentence, "We will fight," before turning away, leaving the council with no explanation, no justification, and no plea for allies, just those 3 words that carried a weight none could measure. And as the alien fleets prepared to launch, bright ships gleaming with technology that could tear through steel like paper, the human fleet began its slow departure, engines roaring with an old fury that seemed almost alive, and from the stations above Earth, crews worked in silence, veterans and rookies alike fastening themselves into seats worn smooth by generations before them, faces set not in fear but in determination, and though their ships looked old, their crews moved with the precision of those who had drilled their entire lives for this moment, every order crisp, every movement sharp, as though the very steel of their ships had taught them discipline. Back in the council chamber, alien leaders mocked openly. Wagers were made on how quickly the humans would be destroyed. Some said within the first hour of battle, others gave them 2 at most, and one arrogant warlord laughed so hard his golden armor rattled, claiming that human wreckage would serve as excellent target practice for cadets. But far away, in the dark corridors of space, the human fleet kept its silence, exchanging coded signals that no alien intelligence could decipher, messages layered with old languages, patterns buried in history, systems so outdated that modern scanners dismissed them as noise, but to human ears those signals carried secrets, strategies, traps, and above all, the timing of something no one else had yet seen. The first clash came swiftly, alien fleets descending with bright weapons cutting across the void like rivers of fire, shields flaring, cannons roaring, the sky between stars alive with light and destruction, and the humans moved into formation, their old ships sliding into place with the precision of clockwork, their engines groaning as they pushed harder than they should have been able to, and though alien commanders laughed, believing they had cornered prey, their laughter began to falter. When the human fleet did not break, did not scatter, but held together, their battered hulls glowing under fire yet refusing to fall, their guns firing in steady rhythm, every shot deliberate, every target chosen with deadly care, and while the galaxy saw only old cannons and crude missiles, the humans knew the truth. Each weapon was aimed at weak points others had forgotten, vulnerabilities hidden under layers of arrogance. And ships began to fall, not human ships, but alien, as sudden explosions tore through vessels that were supposed to be invincible. In the council chamber, the mocking stopped as feeds flickered across the great screens, showing flashes of alien wreckage drifting through space, and though the humans were still outnumbered, still outgunned, their calm resistance shook the room, whispers rising into stunned silence as the truth began to press on every mind. These humans had not come to be destroyed, they had come with a plan, and whatever it was, it had only just begun. The insectoid strategist from before leaned forward, mandibles clicking nervously as it hissed. They are not fighting to win here, they are fighting to move something into place. But no one wanted to hear, no one wanted to believe, and yet deep in the void, as alien fleets turned their fury on the humans with renewed rage, the human admiral leaned forward, his hand brushing an old panel, and whispered a command that had been waiting for centuries. And far beyond the battlefield, something stirred, something hidden in the cold darkness of forgotten orbits, a shadow of power the galaxy had not yet seen, and as the first signal reached those silent guardians, the countdown began, unseen and unstoppable, while the galaxy still mocked, blind to the disaster quietly creeping closer. The battle raged on, a storm of light and fire tearing across the border stars, alien fleets striking with weapons designed to end wars in seconds, beams cutting through the void, missiles burning like suns, and yet the human ships, those ancient relics mocked by the galaxy, endured strike after strike, their armor peeling, their shields flickering, but never breaking, holding the line with a stubbornness that unnerved every watching commander. And as explosions bloomed around them, the humans continued to fire in their strange rhythm, every volley targeting not the strongest points but the weakest, cutting into joints, engines, and exposed systems, forcing alien ships to fall one by one, their deaths silent in the vacuum yet thunderous across council screens, and soon the laughter was gone, replaced by restless whispers. But still many alien leaders told themselves it was luck, coincidence, nothing more, and that soon the humans would be crushed. But deep in space, away from the battlefield, the hidden plan moved forward, a set of signals carried on old radio waves, bouncing between beacons that had been asleep for centuries, awakening ancient machines built in secret, machines hidden not in starports but in the forgotten edges of human colonies, abandoned wrecks that the galaxy assumed were useless, yet within them lay systems built for one purpose: revenge. On the battlefield, the alien fleets pushed harder, concentrating their fire on the largest human ship, a massive old cruiser scarred with battles from centuries before, its hull blackened and its cannons ancient, but inside it was alive with calm voices, officers calling out orders, engineers keeping engines burning beyond their limits, and the admiral standing at the heart of it all with unshaken calm, his voice steady as he told his crew. Hold, just hold a little longer, for he knew the galaxy did not yet understand what was coming. In the council chamber, alien generals demanded explanations, furious that their fleets could not crush the humans quickly, their pride stung by every ship that fell to human guns, and finally one commander, his scales flashing with rage, shouted that the humans must be using stolen technology, some hidden ally providing weapons unseen, but the insectoid strategist shook its head slowly and clicked. No, this is not stolen. This is patience, and though no one wished to admit it, a cold dread began to settle in the room, for the strategist was rarely wrong. Back on the field, the aliens launched a massive push, overwhelming force focused into a single spear meant to shatter the human formation, a flood of light and destruction that should have broken them apart. But instead the human ships shifted, moving with strange precision, not away from the fire but into it, guiding the enemy deeper, forcing them into a corridor of space, and though the aliens thought it was victory, that the humans had trapped themselves, the admiral smiled faintly, for the trap was not for the humans but for their enemies, and as the alien fleet surged forward, sensors began to scream, detecting something massive rising from the cold void behind them, shadows breaking free from the darkness, ancient human constructs that had slept for generations, hidden in asteroid belts and silent orbits, machines that looked like broken hulks yet came alive with sudden power, their engines roaring with energy older than the current empires, and as their weapons lit up for the first time in centuries, the aliens realized too late that the humans had not brought only the ships they could see, but had prepared for this war long before the galaxy even noticed, building, hiding, waiting. The first blast came like thunder, a beam of raw energy slicing through the largest alien battleship, splitting it apart in a single strike, and silence fell in the council chamber as the image filled the screens, the galaxy watching as forgotten relics awoke and began to fire in unison, each shot precise, each strike devastating, and panic rippled through the alien fleets, commanders screaming for retreat, for shields, for explanations. But the admiral simply raised his hand and said, "Now." And the battlefield changed forever. The galaxy could not believe what it saw. Fleets that had mocked humans only hours ago were now in chaos, ships burning, commanders screaming into broken channels, orders clashing as panic spread faster than fire, and in the great council chamber the silence was worse than battle, rows of alien leaders frozen as giant screens showed their most powerful warships being torn apart by what they had called scrap metal. And at the center of it all stood the human fleet, calm, deliberate, unshaken, fighting with precision as if every move had been rehearsed years in advance, every shot chosen with cold patience, and as more alien vessels crumbled, some empires began demanding retreat, their voices high with fear, while others shouted for reinforcements, insisting that humans could not be allowed this victory, but none could deny the truth unfolding before their eyes. The galaxy's laughter had turned into terror. Yet even as human war machines from the shadows struck with deadly accuracy, Admiral Joran's eyes remained fixed on his maps, his voice calm as he told his crew, "This is not the end, it is only the beginning," for he knew the enemy still had numbers, still had arrogance, and arrogance often made them dangerous, but behind his calm face he also knew another truth, one no alien could guess: the real weapon had not yet been shown. Across the council floor, an insectoid strategist whispered, its mandibles clicking, "They waited centuries for this moment, and we never saw it," while a reptilian warlord slammed his claws against the railing, snarling that humans were breaking the balance of power, and an avian elder spoke in fear, saying, "If they hid this much from us, what else lies in their shadows?" Meanwhile, in space, the aliens attempted to regroup, pulling their forces into tighter lines, forming heavy barriers of ships, their commanders barking orders to cut through the rusted humans with overwhelming strength, but the humans only shifted again, their ancient ships moving with strange discipline, pushing the enemy further into corridors of death where hidden guns awoke, shredding the strongest vessels. And still the humans did not overextend, never rushed, always steady, as if following a script that the galaxy could not read. Then, without warning, one of the largest alien dreadnoughts unleashed its full arsenal, waves of fire meant to annihilate everything in its path, and for a moment it seemed the humans would finally crack, their ships battered, shields collapsing, hulls torn open, lives lost in silence. But instead of retreat, the humans pressed forward, closing in with broken vessels, their crews fighting even as their ships died. And in the chaos they delivered a final strike that pierced the dreadnought's core, ripping it apart in a blinding light that shook every watching eye. Gasps filled the council, disbelief turning into dread, for this was not luck, not chance, it was something else entirely. Humans were willing to fight to the last breath, and that was a weapon no empire had ever mastered. Still, the aliens clung to hope, telling themselves the humans had revealed everything, that once these hidden relics were destroyed there would be nothing left. But Joran knew otherwise, his hands steady as he signaled the next phase, a signal sent not to ships, not to machines, but to something older, something buried deep in human colonies, old vaults sealed with codes, vaults that had been called myths by most of the galaxy, and even by some humans themselves. But now those vaults stirred, opening across distant systems, awakening projects that had been locked away for reasons no alien could understand. The council elders leaned forward, sensing the change, and the chamber filled with whispers, but Alara, the young human diplomat present among them, sat with calm eyes, her voice soft but clear when she finally spoke. You mocked what you saw, but you never asked what you did not see, and her words echoed through the chamber like a warning, chilling even the loudest voices into silence, for everyone felt it now, the disaster was only beginning. The galaxy held its breath as human ships kept their lines steady, broken hulls drifting like silent shields while others pressed forward with precision. But far away, deeper than the battlefield, something older stirred. Hidden vaults buried in human colonies across forgotten worlds began to open, ancient codes unlocking with cold finality, and what came alive inside those chambers was not fleets, not weapons in the simple sense, but machines of war built in ages when humanity fought only itself, machines so advanced that most humans had chosen to bury them rather than use them, and now these titans were waking once more, humming with power older than the council itself, their cores glowing with energy no alien scientist could ever replicate. In the council chamber, alien leaders argued louder than ever, some demanding a ceasefire before humans released whatever had just been stirred, others insisting that humans were bluffing, that nothing so old could possibly be of use, but their voices grew quiet when screens lit up, showing gigantic shapes rising from human worlds, black silhouettes with wings of metal and engines roaring like storms, each one larger than the fleets mocking them earlier, each one carrying weapons that the galaxy had no names for, and yet humans deployed them with silence, no arrogance, no shouts of triumph, only grim acceptance, as if even they feared the power they had just chosen to unchain. Admiral Joran gave the order with a voice low but steady, Phase 2 begins now, and across the battlefield the alien fleets froze, their scanners screaming warnings they could not understand, readings that broke their instruments, energy waves that bent their shields, until one commander shouted in disbelief, they brought gods to war. The battle shifted instantly, alien ships that had been regrouping were torn apart like fragile glass, massive weapons cutting through layers of defense as though they were air, entire fleets disintegrating in seconds, and yet the humans never pushed too far, always measured, always deliberate, and that control was what terrified the council most, because it meant humanity had known all along what they could unleash and had chosen to wait until now. Panic spread through the chamber, empires whispering that humans had tricked them for decades, pretending weakness, hiding behind rusted ships while preparing monsters no one else dared create. And yet, in the middle of that fear, Alara rose again, her calm voice cutting through the chaos as she said, "This is what you forced us to remember, what you forced us to release," and her words struck deeper than any weapon, because they reminded every alien that this was not humanity's first war, but only the first war where the galaxy had mocked them. Outside, the scene grew worse for the arrogant empires. Ships that once believed themselves indestructible were now running, scattering, trying to escape the killing fields humans had crafted. But wherever they ran, the ancient machines followed, relentless, merciless, their movements guided by human captains who seemed almost sorrowful at the destruction they commanded. Even those who still believed humans could be crushed fell silent when the largest alien fortress, a moving citadel said to withstand 1,000 sieges, was pierced in a single strike, collapsing into fire and silence in less than a minute, and that image burned across every screen in the galaxy. The council's whispers turned into shouts, some begging to surrender before humans unleashed more, others furious that one species could overturn centuries of balance, and one elder finally slammed his staff, declaring, "If humanity has awakened its ghosts, then none of us are safe." But Alara's eyes did not waver. and Admiral Joran's voice on the comms carried the weight of truth when he said, "We never wanted to wake them, but you left us no choice." The galaxy understood then that the disaster was not only military, but political, because now the question was not whether humans could win, but whether they could ever be stopped, and even in their fear, alien leaders began to realize the unthinkable, that humanity had not yet revealed everything, and what came next might not simply end wars, it might end empires. The battlefield was silent now, broken only by the drifting remains of once proud alien fleets, their shattered hulls glowing red against the black of space, but the silence was heavier than victory, because the galaxy realized the humans had not smiled, had not cheered, had not even raised their voices in triumph. Instead they stood cold and still, as if burdened by the terrible choice they had made, unleashing weapons that should have remained buried forever. And in the council chamber, fear ran deeper than any wound, alien leaders whispering to one another, some swearing humanity would now rule the stars, others trembling at the thought that humans could choose to erase them at will. Elara remained at the center, her eyes calm but heavy, and when she finally spoke, her words spread across the galaxy, carried by every broadcast, her voice simple yet sharp as steel. "We are not here to conquer, but do not mistake our silence for weakness again." And those words struck harder than any weapon, because every empire knew she was right. They had laughed, mocked, and underestimated humans until the day disaster came. Admiral Joran closed his command link, staring at the ancient machines still floating in formation, waiting for orders, machines powerful enough to destroy a world with a single strike, but instead of sending them forward, he gave a different command, one that shocked even his own officers: stand down. The Titans dimmed their cores, weapons folding back into silence, and the galaxy gasped in disbelief, because in that moment humanity revealed the greatest weapon of all was not the monsters they could unleash, but the discipline to put them away, to show they could win but still choose restraint. Alien admirals who once laughed now sat frozen, because they realized no empire in history would have held back after such a victory, no species would have stopped at the edge of total power, and that restraint made humans far more dangerous than their weapons ever could. Across the chamber, one alien voice whispered what the others dared not: "They don't fight to rule, they fight to survive, and no one can ever break that." The truth spread faster than any fleet, a truth more frightening than ancient machines, because while empires rose and fell on pride, greed, or fear, humanity's strength was born of something deeper, a relentless will that no technology could measure, a refusal to bow even in the darkest hour, and that will was now burned into the mind of every alien leader present. Slowly, one by one, the most arrogant voices fell silent, their threats dying in their throats, until the chamber held only the echo of Elara's warning, a warning that would be written into history. Humanity was no longer the newcomer to be mocked, but the fire no empire dared provoke again. Outside, the human fleet reformed, battered ships holding the line beside the Titans of old, a strange picture of past and present standing together, and as they drifted back towards safe space, alien spies recorded every detail, sending frantic reports to their rulers, but all the reports carried the same ending: do not test them again. In the weeks that followed, borders shifted, threats vanished, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy whispered peace not out of hope, but out of fear of what humanity could do if pushed. Yet among the humans themselves, there was no celebration, only quiet repair, the cleaning of wounds, the remembrance of those lost, and the silent burial of machines that had once again gone to sleep, hidden away until the day they might be needed. Elara stood at the viewport of her ship, watching stars drift by, her reflection staring back with both pride and sorrow, and she whispered softly to herself words no alien could hear: "We never wanted to be monsters, but if they force us, we will." And so the galaxy learned its final lesson, that the rusted ships they mocked were only the cover, the calm before the storm, and that the true power of humanity was not in the ships, not in the buried Titans, but in the will of one small species that refused to break, a will that made even the greatest empires tremble, and would forever remind the galaxy of the day the humans rose, were mocked, and then turned disaster into the most terrifying victory the stars had ever seen.